Burnout doesn't usually mean you're doing too much. It often means you've drifted away from the part of you that knows why you're here. In this conversation, we explore why so many gifted, heart-led people feel blocked, fake, or spiritually disconnected, even when they're doing everything right. By the end, you'll see what's actually been missing and how creativity quietly holds the key back to meaning. Hi, and welcome to the U World Order Showcase podcast, where we feature life health transformational coaches and spiritual entrepreneurs stepping up to be the change they seek in the world. I'm your host, Jill Hart, the Coach's Alchemist, on a mission to empower coaches and entrepreneurs to amplify their voice, monetize their mission, and get visible. If you're ready to start attracting premium clients without chasing algorithms or hunting people down like a banshee on a mission, head over to coachesalchemist.com and schedule your free client acquisition audit. It's the first step to building a business where your clients seek you out rather than you having to hunt them down. Today, we are chatting with Rabbi Alon Ferency. Did I get that right?
You got it.
Oh, good. Okay.
I
Alon
love
is.
putting a host ill at ease right away.
I'm terrible with names. I'm the first one to admit it.
I have a
So
very quirky name, so I understand.
I love it though. It's unique. It's
Thank you.
eclectic.
It is very
Alon
eclectic.
Alon is a rabbi, artist, coach, and creativity consultant who draws on years of congregational leadership to guide artists, seekers, and social entrepreneurs in aligning their work with their deepest values. His coaching and teaching weave together mindfulness, moral imagination, and deliberate creative practice, helping clients use creativity as a path to meaning, resilience, and purposeful impact. Welcome to the show, Alon. It's great to have you with us.
Great to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
All right, now for the big question. Are you ready?
I am.
What's the most significant thing, in your opinion, as individuals we can do to make an impact on how the world is going?
Well, the world is going poorly. And I think a lot of it is the rigidity that we're bringing to the world. It's funny. I was thinking about this because I knew you'd ask me, and I want to change my answer. I was going to say
Okay.
something along the lines of moral imagination. And this is part of that, but I want to say not being so sure you're right.
Yes.
Not
Curious
being
over.
certain. I think people are not open enough to the possibility that they might be wrong and that their opponent might be right. And that when you disagree with someone on you can like the Rolling Stones, I can like the Who. Obviously, I'm the one who's correct. But that doesn't mean we won't agree on other things.
Well,
So I
it's fun to explore why you feel the way you
correct.
do without
Yeah.
having to die on that hill and drag everybody up it with you.
Or to have more conversations and fewer debates.
Yes. Yes.
Um,
Yes. We've lost the art of conversation.
That is probably true. And that's more broad. I mean, there's a lot of study now about young men not knowing how to date because they've lost the ability to converse and flirt. But that's a
Yeah.
different topic for a different day because I used to be
It's
quite a
really
flirt.
important.
It
It's
is.
really important because
Yeah.
the continuation of our species depends on it.
Well, also, I found I was not great at dating, but I could always introduce myself to someone because I find people interesting. And I would
Mhm.
see, a book they were holding or a t-shirt they were wearing or something about their affect and comment on it because they interested me. It was nice if the person was cute also. That's obviously a hormonal 24-year-old, but I think it's important to be able to be interested in people and to
Yeah.
understand that someone has something to contribute that may be beyond your scope. So
Yeah.
I guess that
But
all
they
is,
can be different. And different is sometimes good because it gives you an opportunity to learn something new, to try something on. You don't have to like buy it, but you know,
yeah,
if you don't get the experiences, what are you here for?
yeah,
So
yeah.
you talk about moral imagination.
Okay.
I'd love to dive into that because what do you mean by it?
Well, I have to admit, I am a little bit poncy and use words that I don't always understand, but they sound right. I do know what moral imagination means, but I think I overuse it or I'm careless. It probably has a more precise definition than I use. I think it's along the lines of being willing to put yourself in someone else's shoes. It's along the lines. I mean, I think the Talmud, which is one of the sacred books of Judaism is very good at this to imagine what your opponent's response would be, right? To imagine whichever side of the abortion debate you are on, for example, what the other side might say and how the other side might challenge you or accept your opinion or be won over. To imagine how someone might have arrived at their conclusions and might have arrived at their principles. And then, that doesn't mean you can't ask, right? And I think we as a society have gotten too offended too quickly so that we've made each other afraid to ask difficult questions. But also to be intellectually charitable is the word, to assume the best of your, I keep saying opponent, but
They're
someone you
people.
are someone you're having a conversation with. They don't have to be your opponent. They might politically disagree with you on A, B, or C, or artistically have a different viewpoint, or religiously be of a different stance. But I'm very curious to hear their scripture, their favorite book, their favorite music. Sometimes they can be wrong, like I really don't like REM. My kids will play it for me just because they know I don't like REM. But they can
I
be
like
wrong.
REM.
They're still young. So yeah.
I think we go through phases in life, and there, at my point in life, being a crone, and I own it, um, you look back and realize that, yeah, I was so sure about that, but I was so wrong.
Pat Oswalt has a great bit about that, how he would convince you that you were stupid for liking a certain band. And now as he ages, I like this band. I don't like this band. I used to like this band, but I'm not going to hate you over it. And I'm not going to try to prove you wrong, right? Some things are personal preference and some things are not worth fighting over. So many things are not worth fighting over.
So many things aren't worth fighting over, and I think we've forgotten with the internet that people are human beings first. They have a story. We all have a story, and we all
Yes.
impact each other. And you brought up the abortion thing. Abortion is very personal, and women tend to be um, have a different view of it than men. Sometimes as a couple, they have a different view. But it all comes back to, and I don't think there's any right or wrong answer. I, I used to have a very rigid stance on it, and
Yeah.
I have personal experience with it, and I have kids who have kids, and there's a different medical component that came into it, and I'm just like, it's a personal, it's very personal. And
There,
should we have a societal stance on it? I don't know. I really don't know. I
there
can be
was a
curious.
line recently in The Economist, one of my favorite newspapers, that
Mhm,
they're describing Democrats, but it applies to too many Americans of all parties and stripes.
mhm.
People tend to make policy issues into moral issues way ahead of, yeah.
And then they
So,
stand on it. And as
right.
society is like
They become
moving,
absolutes. Yeah.
I was reading something about the interracial marriage uh, laws that used to exist in the US. And that fairly recently,
Oh,
within
yeah.
my lifetime, has
Yes.
changed.
Yes.
And the Civil Rights Act, that's within
I
my
don't
lifetime.
think it was that long ago that women couldn't sign mortgages.
Women couldn't get credit. You
That's the one.
had to
Yeah. You
have
couldn't
a
get a credit card
man.
until into the 70s, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, like 74 or 75.
I
It
think a
was,
lot of people shouldn't have credit cards, though. Maybe they just needed to
it's
apply it differently.
predatory.
Well, most people don't know how to manage, but yes. Yeah.
But women weren't allowed to be independent enough to support themselves. They went to college to find husbands, and that was not to get educated to be able to work. It's like, in the old days when they used to teach women art and languages and how to needlepoint. I mean, those were like skills that women were taught, not like how to run things or how to do books or how to manage money. Nobody's taught how to manage money these days.
That was my point about credit cards. I don't think anyone understands money. Yeah.
Or the difference between money and currency.
Hmm.
because they are not the same. People get them all mixed up. So back to you. What you're doing. What what are you doing? How do you coach people? How does this all
What
look?
what am I doing? Having a good conversation right now. It's funny. We were talking prior to going on air that I'm working with a media company, and they really helped clarify my position, which is most of what I ask artists and others to do, and this goes in line with moral imagination, is what someone called a sidestep, right? A detour that you
Mhm,
can. And I think we do this too often, even in the corporate world, where you think you can solve the spreadsheet by staring at the spreadsheet.
mhm,
And sometimes you step outside for a coffee, sometimes you pet your cat, sometimes you look at another document, sometimes you read a novel, and that sidestep, that detour, that stepping aside can help you find the correct path. So a lot of the people I'm working with, I think, at various points in their career are or certainly feel that they may be at the end of the line artistically, that they may have come to a crossroads or a place where they are right at the edge of the map. There's no road left, there's no map left. And they panic. And I think they think, maybe it's time for me to give up art. Or maybe I can't take the next step to doing a massive installation at a university. Or maybe that one great album I had 6 years ago was my peak. And they don't know how to continue. And you see this in bands that had lifetime careers, Dylan and the Rolling Stones, even, where there were times, and people have said, is rock and roll dead or is jazz dead, right? There's always this sense that we might have reached the end of a fruitful experience, but
mhm.
in my sense, that has never been true. And for those of us like you and me, I think, I'm assuming from things you've said and hinted at, that understand art to be profoundly spiritual, if we can understand what it is we're making and why, the road never ends. It might detour, it might require a sidestep, it might require a, a pause, stepping back, an oblique motion, a quirk, but it's never over. So we could be an actor or a writer our whole lives, and the format might change, and the road might change, and the car might change, but the journey doesn't end. So I tend to be people. If you think of someone like lost in the woods, they pull over the car, there's no more map left. Like getting the back on a new path.
I love that. Both of my parents were artists. Well,
All
my
right.
dad's still an artist, but I've watched their art move over the years, and I I've recently joined a community where we're practicing drawing some of the masters art, and I seriously just got done sitting in my car while my dad's doing chemo, and I was drawing a Cezanne, or not a Cezanne, a Picasso piece that she put up like four pieces that we're supposed to copy. I have 12 colored pencils. That's all I've got, and my little notebook.
And
And
what scale? Like
that
a
just
small version? Any scale
yeah,
you
just
want.
a little in
Okay.
in my notebook. And scale is an important point, but which I realized while I was trying to like sketch out the outline of where I was going, because you take something that appears as a square and you try to make it a rectangle, all the dimensions are going to be off, and you're just going to frustrate yourself. So after trying a couple times to do the whole rectangle of the page, I realized this is a square. So we're just going to do it as a square, and then we're going to be able to get the pieces where they need to be with my 12 colored pencils. So needless to say, it does not look like anything like Picasso did, but I got the things. I got all the pieces. And I love Picasso because his he builds stuff in pieces. It's like
Yeah.
outlines that you can color in.
It also seems very open to translation,
Mhm,
right? Especially, I mean, I know best Guernica, which is huge, so that's why I was curious about scale.
mhm,
But because he was already playing around so much with perspective,
mhm.
that you can also continue the play.
Yeah.
It seems like, unlike, let's say, Michelangelo, that was very figurative and very clear.
Mhm.
You have to get the abs just right, I suppose. Picasso is abstract in a way that allows you in, as a copier and to be more of a translator or an interpreter.
Mhm.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, it was so fun. And more just the practice of art, whether you want it, whether you are an artist and you're trying to expand, or you're just somebody who doodles on a page, taking a piece, a masterpiece, and really looking at it, because you can't copy something that you don't really study, and you see the shading that you miss when you just look at something arbitrarily. And it just is like allows your brain to focus without allowing all the other 9 million things. It's always going through our head. And it's like time just sorts of melts away and allows you to just like be in the moment.
So when you give something that level of focus, attention, attunement, which are all a kind of mindfulness practice,
Mhm.
and then you are part of the creative process, what does it feel like? Do you, in terms of, and I know it's an odd question because obviously we don't literally feel these things, but in terms of neurons and cortisol and neurotransmitters, what does it feel like is coursing through you, if you could name it?
To me, it's peace. It's
Hmm.
just super peaceful and still and quiet because I don't listen to anything. I don't have any other input other than visual and then what I'm doing with my hands. And there's a flow to it and an intensity to it that it is a meditation in and of itself because you're not having to think too hard about the creative process because you're just copying. But it's trying to get the details. It, it's
Do
it's
you,
different than creating an original piece of art.
well, that's sort of, okay, that's a question then. Do you find making original work more energizing or equally peace inducing, peaceful making? None of those are real words, but you know what I'm going
I
for.
know what you mean, and I think
Calming.
original pieces are more like a release for me because I'll have
Ah,
something in my head that it's just like I have to put it somewhere. And drawing can be, um, if I'm doing something that's out of my head, I've been thinking about it for a while and it's like I can't have it taking up space in my head anymore. We got to put it somewhere on paper. So that's a
you have to
different
metabolize
experience.
it, is sometimes the word I'll use. You have to metabolize
Yeah,
what's there. Yeah.
yeah, that's exactly it. So do you mostly work with coaches
No, I mostly work with
or
artists.
artists and
Artists.
that?
Well, so this is interesting as I mentioned working with a marketing team, trying to
Mhm,
identify the core cohort, which I think is culture shapers. Because I also work with pastors, ministers, rabbis,
mhm,
I also lead a lot of meditations of, I guess the demographic of that would be 50 to 70 something women.
mhm,
Um, I teach at arts programs locally and elsewhere, and
mhm,
a lot of work in recovery. So I
mhm,
think it's people who are engaged in the shaping and making of culture, but
mhm.
not necessarily graphically or where there's a particular outcome of a record or a painting. But I want to ask you a little further. So where in your life do you imagine you might be at the end of a road and like or a roadblock or an impasse? Is this happening to us all the time or is it just occasional? Is there always some place in our life where there's a roadblock?
I I don't know. I think I suspect that probably there is in just in everyday life.
Yeah.
We're always we're always moving on this journey that's always happening now. But in the now, we run into spaces where we're unsure of how the next step is going to, what experience the next step is going to evolve into. Um, and it can cause frustration for us, or or I think we all experience um, change differently when we run into those spaces. Um, what do you think?
What's what's your no? I'm actually okay. I'm gonna yes, I will answer, and I also but I want to ask you a follow up. What
Okay.
is it's interesting. I've never thought of that we all experience those sort of impasses or crossroads differently. I always assume there's sort of a fear and panic and crisis mode, but do you experience it with? I'm going to guess, given some of the things you said, a little bit of curiosity and questioning.
Yeah, it's like how can this and I don't look at it as like a roadblock so much as it's a place where it's a fork in the road.
Yeah.
It could be lots of forks in the road, but something has you have to pick a direction that you're going to move in now. And and you have to make some decisions. I'm a really good decision maker.
So you don't
I,
get paralyzed by choice.
I don't, but I know there are a lot of people that do. They want to analyze things and like I said, we're all different and it's not good or bad. Some people get caught in analysis paralysis, but really they're just at a fork in the road. They just have to pick one direction because you can't move forward unless you're moving. You can adapt and adjust, and maybe you're going to find yourself back on the other path that you didn't choose a little bit further down the line. Very rarely do we backtrack, in my experience.
I think even if we do, it's useful.
Mm, try again.
Yeah.
It's
I used
okay.
to, my deepest fear and my greatest trigger was the word failure.
Oh,
That
failure's
always,
experience.
well, now I just frame it as a setback and challenge. Like, and I think a setback can be fun, right? Oh, that didn't work. I'm going to take 2 yards, step back, see what it looks like. Maybe that's not the way over the hill or around the hill. Maybe there's another way. I come back to, do you know Mitch Hedberg?
Hmm.
So he's a very odd stand-up comedian from like the early 2000s, I want to say. He has a bit that when he plays music loud, his neighbors get angry and bang on the wall between their apartments.
Hmm.
And in order to troll them, he says, "There's no door there. Go around. I can't open the wall for you." So I think of that as a great symptom or metaphor of what I do, which is, you're looking at a wall, not a door. So go around.
Yeah, there's a different there's a different way to get to where you're going, and it's okay. You haven't failed. You just haven't gotten there yet.
Right. And yeah, more and more I like setbacks, or I like these challenges or these quirks of fate. Um, and life is so short that if we didn't have challenges and opportunities to grow,
Mhm.
what are we doing? What are we doing with this precious time if we're not pushing
If
ourselves a
if
little? I don't mean like
everything went
running ragged, but
if everything went right, how much fun would that really be?
I might accept. That
Well,
sounds kind of nice. Do I have servants in this? Yeah. How rich am I in this scenario of everything going right?
well,
Do I have a chef?
but then you wouldn't experience the joy of cooking, and then you wouldn't experience the joy of cleaning. And these are things I love, or gardening, or spending time with your boys, and just like embracing the moment. Because trust me, that moment is going to vanish and you'll have different moments. This makes
Yeah,
me
yeah.
teary. You'll have
My eldest
grandkids.
just had his birthday, and I feel he's closer and closer to college. It's very,
And then they'll
yeah,
become their own people. There's a song that Cat Stevens wrote, the father and son song.
yeah,
It makes me cry all the time. I'm sitting here with my dad. I've been here for a month. I'll be here for another couple months. And um he's he he longs for my kids and their kids to come and visit him, but it's like they're starting their lives. They're super busy and they've got kids. And you can't just, pick up 2-year-olds and hike across the country to come and sit in somebody's living room because they're two. And my dad has his house is like a museum. There's all this art. kill themselves or
What are you learning in caring for your dad?
patience and lots of stories. I'm learning about him in a way that uh, he's almost 90 and he's lived a really interesting life and experienced a lot of things. He's one of those people that really did have an adventure in his life. And we lived in a lot of places, and to get his perspective of the experiences that I remember as a child that he experienced as an adult, it's been really fascinating.
Healing?
Yeah, there's there's healing. There's a lot of healing and just and patience and curiosity, being able to be open. And yes, some of the stories are repetitive, but it's a
It's,
reminder to me to not do this to my own children, and I do find that I do it.
I mean, we can screw up our kids in new ways also. I
Yeah.
definitely don't always screw up my kids in the ways my parents screwed me up or screwed up with me, but I do it in plenty of other ways.
Yeah. Yeah.
I find being a parent has really, and I know this is very far afield for your listeners, but has really helped me heal with my parents.
Mhm.
And to see what it's like and how hard it is and how much they must have been trying, even though I was frustrated and disappointed in their
They're
actions at times.
so young.
Yes,
That's the
also,
thing.
I'm
They're
just
like,
a child.
I'm so mad at my mom from when I was 6 years old. And she was living in Naples, Italy with three babies. I was the oldest and I was six. And she was maybe 25.
Right.
You're not done with 25.
I'm 50 and I'm still a bad parent, so I don't know. Yeah.
I'm 65. I had my last child when I was 44. I I I had my first when I was 21 or 22. Just like I had a lot of time to like figure out new ways to screw them up. They're all different. They're all amazing human beings. I look at them and I'm just like, oh my cow, you guys are just such fantastic humans. Whether you like me or not, and this week, and I do hope you let me play with the kids because, I like them. But I just like it, it's amazing. And I don't really feel like I did anything. And I know I screwed them up. I mean,
Oh, we
don't get
did.
me wrong, there
Yeah,
was
I'm
trauma
sure you
involved.
did. I mean, the amount of work that goes into being a decent parent is enormous. A good enough parent is a lot of work. I do a lot of driving just to be a good enough parent, get them to their activities and school and events and sports and friends. Just the driving alone and the cleaning up after them is a lot of work just to be a mediocre parent. So I
Yeah,
don't,
and
yeah,
just to love them and to encourage them to explore their own creativity and
yeah.
not say, well, no, you can't do that. You have to do this. Just to leave the door open and say, what is it that sparks you, lights you up, starts that fire in you? And how can you push that into earning a living so that you can survive and raise your own families? But I mean, instead of saying everybody has to,
No, I think it's fascinating that you can have, you said you have five children.
I have five children.
Yeah, I have four, and they're also, I mean, there's things in common, but they're also, one likes robotics, one starting trumpet, one plays lacrosse. There's no rhyme or reason, and yet they are all of a piece in a way.
Uh-huh.
And it's kind of wonderful to hear them talk about their passions and what they imagine their life to be, whether one of them thinks about becoming a veterinarian. And I have no idea if it will endure. He's 11 and he loves cats. I can tell you that for sure. But I don't know which of these dreams will endure. And I'm invested in them in certain ways, but not in certainty. And it's
Hmm.
exciting in the same way I feel about the people I work with, that I get to see, where is this all going? to go back to that original comment, like how would we make the world better? To be more interested and curious about the trajectory of people's lives. It's variously said by Plato or Philo, it's not clear, that you should be kind to everyone because everyone is fighting a difficult battle.
Yes.
And you don't know what's going on the inside and how much the struggle and the passion and the turmoil. And even if it comes out in art, it's very oblique. And you're still not touching the person. And I think, for example, I think people think they know the actor through his work, but you don't. And
We need
there's
human to human connection. We need conversations. We need each other. This we've had so much AI come in, and it's in the art world too. I mean, but it's not the same as that human to human conversation. And even with art is beautiful, but the story behind the creator, that's that's what really shines. I mean, you can look at a
I,
beautiful Picasso, but
I
if you
might
understand,
challenge that because I think what I love about art is that it can be separated from the creator, and that the art can speak to you in a way that the creator may never have intended, and that it
oh,
is,
that's true because we're
you know,
all we're all going to accept things into ourselves.
and that also art, whether it's Guernica or Dave Chappelle, can say things that you can't. To go back to the metaphor of we could use more conversations and fewer debates,
Mhm.
right? You can't rationally say things and have people experience the horror of war in the same way that Guernica teaches you, right? You can detail as much, and I used to use the metaphor of Casablanca versus a World War II documentary.
Mhm.
And Casablanca is true in the way a documentary isn't, because there is real heroism, there is real change in a person, there is the movement from being callow and shallow to being expansive and risk taking, the fight for freedom, the sense of irony that keeps us detached from love, all those elements in Casablanca that have nothing to do with the fact or fiction of what happened in Casablanca in World War II. I think art has great power, and it transcends the artist, and that's what I would wish to be part of. A piece of something that endures beyond me. And all the people who wrote and created and sang the parts of the Bible, their names are not recorded, but they left us something precious. Even Homer and the Odyssey, it's not clear that Homer was really a person, but however the Odyssey came into being, is the gift is the Odyssey. And I think the world needs more of that. I think the world needs more of less brute force talking and more metaphor, more paradox. I think art can give us a lot of that. And art can give us that moral imagination, that ability to sidestep direct confrontation and to challenge you with something oblique, something insinuates itself.
Small thread
Yeah.
that connects us.
Yeah.
I, yeah, I would just like to sit with that for a few minutes.
Sure.
It's really profound. So let's go back to your coaching because I really want to talk about how you help these artists. Um,
We should
and
start with if I help these artists.
okay, well, I'm
I
sure
think I
that you
do. I
do.
think I do, but it's very hard to measure. I feel that I'm witness to change, but I can't tell you that caused the change. It's nice to be around.
You haven't added your energy. You add your energy to these artists to
And
help
love.
affect change.
Yeah.
Um, and and do you work in like just one-on-one with people? And what kind of
Um,
artists are we talking here?
More expansively these days. So I did a program at one of the creative departments at the University of Tennessee, where I'm located.
Mhm.
I've done things at churches and synagogues. The majority of the work is one-on-one. So it could be a sculptor, an actor, a playwright, a game designer, a DJ, a singer.
Mhm.
Pretty expansive understanding of what constitutes arts making. a lot of people in the sort of what you call spiritual entrepreneurship,
Mhm.
social entrepreneurship, people who are weaving the threads of culture, I think would be the broadest way to say it. Um, yeah. What was the further question though? I don't think I finished answering your question. I think I got lost in my own thoughts.
What you did, because I asked you what kinds of artists you help
Right. Okay.
and how you help them one on one. Um, and they can find out about that at eclecticcleric.com.
Yes. And eclectic cleric on all your socials. Yeah.
Okay, and so they can find the creativity check-in there. And do you want
That's
to
right. Yeah. It's
explain a little bit
downloadable.
what that is?
If I recall, it's 10 questions just to kind of take the pulse of where you are creatively. What
Mhm.
moves you, what excites you, where your passions are, what's holding you back, what you've always wanted to do, where the roadblocks are might be. Start to infer where the roadblocks are. Yeah.
So, what is the one big transformation that people get from working with you? What would you say that is?
I think I've seen a lot of people get unblocked. I mean, again, I'm so nervous to take credit because I think that really undermines the artist's work and the work we do. And with any therapeutic intervention, it wouldn't work without both parties.
Mhm.
I think people who see themselves as maybe it's time for me to give up painting, maybe I don't have another great album in me, maybe I should just make commercial art, maybe I should just worry about what Instagram thinks, maybe I should go back to my day job full time. It doesn't take long to convince them that that's not what should happen. And then to help them figure out what should happen next takes a little longer. But it's usually out of a playful stance, which used to feel very silly. But now I don't know. I think that sort of beginner's mind, helping people return to why did you become an actor when you were 8? What did you love about being on stage? What was it like the first time you picked up a watercolor? You know, what was the first poem you ever wrote? Actually, a great question. It wasn't exactly a question. No, it was a question. What is the first song you wrote that is definitively like yours? Right? The first time you wrote a song that sounds like you. That was fun to think about. So I don't know, reconnecting them to sort of that youthful exuberance, but also helping them get out of their own way. Right? And that there are these little tricks and sidesteps and detours and play that you can do to almost trick your mind and lower the stakes so that it's not so all or nothing. And it's fun to see because people start creating new things, sometimes in a totally different medium or genre.
I loved your questions just in this interview about when we were exploring what I did with this Picasso copy that I made. Because I hadn't thought of those things. And it will change the way I approach creating art in the future. I will think about, hmm, what am I feeling right now? And how does this open open me up in the process?
It's incredible. It's incredible to explore creativity. I think it's so life giving. I don't know what we would do without it. Yeah,
Yeah, we
creativity is
need
deeply
more
life
art in the
giving.
world.
Yeah.
People need to just put it out there, whether they think it's good or not. Just
Good isn't that interesting.
it isn't. I mean,
You know,
Picasso isn't like,
personal is interesting.
mhm, yes.
Deep
Yeah.
is interesting. Cared about, careful is interesting.
Mhm,
Good is rarely objective.
mhm. It is, yeah. It's the difference between going to a store and buying something and finding something in an antique store that, or in somebody's home that it's just like it speaks to you. And that piece becomes part of your life versus just another thing that you have in your house.
That sounds great.
So, if someone is feeling blocked, burned out, or disconnected right now, what's one creative practice they can start today that reconnects them to meaning and reminds them who they really are?
I wouldn't say it's a creative practice because I don't know if you're a painter or a songwriter. Um, I love going for a walk. And you cannot bring your phone. Another variant is sitting on a bench with a timer, sitting on a bench for an hour, or I mean, an hour is you could work up to. Maybe you start with 10 minutes and you just have a timer and no phone, nothing else. You just can't leave the bench. But I think a walk is even better. I think going for a walk. I mean, if I had to name a thing that works the most often and is the most generalizable, go for a walk. Um, Short of that, depending on do something that you don't understand. The most common one I would recommend is write a poem because most people don't know the rubrics of good poetry. Right? Like we all know what a good song sounds like. It has a beat, right? Poetry has changed so much over the lifetime of over the centuries of people making poetry that the rules are constantly in flux or seem to be over the course of centuries.
Mhm.
So very few people will judge whether it's a good or bad poem. But do something that you don't know the rules of, is that you no longer have any context in which to judge. So another one that works is Dungeons and Dragons. Right? There's no real rule. There's rules, but you can be bad at it, but that's not the point. It's something that you don't know whether you're good or bad at. It's kind of important. Um, or a
And
walk.
maybe not label it,
Yeah, yeah,
just let it be.
yeah.
Whatever you create, just let it be. It doesn't have to be good or bad, it can just exist because you created it. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you, Jill.
This has been a
Thank you for
great
great questions, a great
conversation.
time. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you all for joining us also. And you can learn more about Alon and you get the creativity check-in guide by visiting
Eclectic cleric,
eclecticcleric.com.
which looks, sounds better than it's easy to say. Yeah,
It looks really cool when you write it down.
it does
Write
look
it
cool,
down
but it's hard
first,
to say.
and then then you will find it. It's eclectic. And you can also find him over on Substack at eclecticcleric.substack.com. Thank you all for tuning in today. If you're ready to amplify your voice, monetize your mission, and start attracting premium clients, your next step is simple. Head to the coachesalchemist.com and schedule your free client acquisition audit. Please join us for our next episode as we share what others are doing to raise the global frequency. And remember, change begins with you. You have all the power to change the world. Start today and get visible.